I hope you all will forgive me for being tardy with this story. 7 years tardy, to be close to exact. As you can see, this article is from April 7th, 2016. So, quite a while ago. But this story is a doozy, and it seems that when this was actually happening, no one really paid attention to it, no one was really alarmed by it, I should say, alarmed by the implications of it, other than certain evangelical groups. They're the only ones who really talked about it, and that's why the sources I'm going to use are this source, Israel 365 News, and the other is CBN, Christian Broadcasting Network. They're the only ones talking about this in the way that is significant, in the way that reveals the undeniable sinister resonance of this story. So as you can see, the headline to this article from 2016, Temple of Baal, I've heard it pronounced Baal or Baal, but I'm going to say Baal, just I'm going to stick with that pronunciation. Temple of Baal replica arrives in London just in time for ancient pagan festival. Okay, so the background is, in 2015, ISIS was engaged in a civil war, the civil war in Syria, and at that time they gained territory that included the ancient city of Palmyra. In the ancient city of Palmyra, there was this site that's called the Temple of Baal, and this is what it looked like before it was destroyed. ISIS, when they gained this territory, they dynamited the structure. They blew it up because it was an ancient site of ungodliness and depravity, which it was. Let's consider here this article. Okay, this article, which is from another site, universal.org, says the original Arch of Palmyra was built by the Romans in the 2nd century as an entrance to a major temple of Baal that had already existed for 3,000 years in Syria. The temple had a powerful furnace below a bronze statue with a bull's head, which represented the god Baal. Temple priests would place children and babies into its outstretched arms and would then roll the blazing fire as human sacrifices. Loud drum beats would drown out the screams. Temple prostitutes were used so that men or women who sought help from Baal would perform lewd acts with the prostitutes as a form of worship. It was a place of the most heinous atrocities committed against innocent children, against all that is good and just, and against God himself. Baal is mentioned 94 times in the Bible as a destructive force against the people of God, Lord of the Flies, the god of dung, a symbol of Satan himself. All right, there's some editorializing there, but historically speaking, I don't think there's much dispute that this is what the Temple of Baal was all about. This is what took place at the Temple of Baal. All right. And that's why ISIS destroyed it, because it was ungodly, because it was a site of lewd and atrocious acts, as were detailed in that passage I just read. But what did the Western world do? What did certain elements of the Western world, who are obviously highly placed and connected with the current leadership of the Western world, what did they do when they found out that ISIS had destroyed this temple? What they did was they rebuilt it. Or more specifically, they rebuilt the arch, the gate that leads to the temple. And that's what this article discusses. And more than that, this is the most sinister aspect of the story of all. More than that, as it reads here. Whether by accident or design, the arrival in London of a full-size replica of an arch which stood on the site of the recently destroyed Temple of Baal coincides with an ancient pagan festival that connects the modern replicas with their ancient roots, serving false idols. Okay, so they had it rebuilt. They had the arch, what came to be known as the Palmyra Arch. They call it it was known as the Arch of Baal. But then, various evangelical groups kicked up a fuss, and I'm giving them credit here because it seems like it was pretty much only them, not so much Catholics, not so much mainline Protestants, but evangelicals, or as they're sometimes called, fundamentalists. They were the ones who saw the sinister significance of this. So they originally tried to open it in Times Square. They originally tried to rebuild the entire thing and open it in Times Square, I think it was just the arch. I don't think they ever intended to rebuild the whole thing, because that would have been much more of an intricate. That would have taken a lot longer. But then they backed off of opening it in Times Square, and they decided to open it in Trafalgar Square in London. And when they opened it, they called it the Palmyra Arch. They didn't refer to Baal at all, even though it was Baal's temple. And they remade it as it reads here, the 28-meter tall 3D printed model, blah, 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 represents a famous arch of the original Temple of Palmyra of Syria, which drew 150,000 visitors a year until it was destroyed by ISIS in September. This is September of 2015. The first replica arch will be on display in London's Trafalgar Square later this month. This is in April, during UNESCO's World Heritage Week. So beginning April 18th and ending on the 22nd. As a symbol of protest against religious extremism. At least that's the ostensible reason. So here's the meat of the story. April 19th is not a meaningful date to most, but to occultists and worshippers of Baal, it is a most auspicious time. Halfway between the spring equinox and the summer solstice, it marked the first day of summer in ancient times, initiating a 13-day period known in the occult as the blood sacrifice to the beast. The period culminates in Beltane, the major festival for the worship of Baal, or as is known in the Western world, May Day. The Temple of Baal, built 2,000 years ago to honor the god of orgies and child sacrifice. Sorry, that's just that's putting it right out there, isn't it? Was the stage for this pagan festival in ancient times. All right, so again, this is basically a fact-based story. This is talking about what's actually happening. There is some editorializing, because these are, this is, like I said, a Christian evangelical journal, and it's seeing some sinister significance in the fact that not only did Western powers decide to rebuild this evil temple, the arch to this evil temple, which really, if what they're saying about this place is true, then I don't have any problem with it being dynamited. I mean, call me a religious extremist. I'm with ISIS on this one. But they decided, no, we've got to rebuild this arch the same way that it was built, thousands of years ago, as the gateway to this temple of this evil god, this demon god, this god of child sacrifice and fornication and orgies and so forth, immorality of all kinds. They decided, we've got to rebuild this, and so they did. They rebuilt the arch of Baal. They call it just the Palmyra Arch, and they opened it at a time meant to coincide with the festival the ancient festival that, or the ancient time of the year, the 13-day period where worship of Baal was, as it says put here, most auspicious. So not only do they rebuild this temple and rebuild the arch to this temple, the entrance way to this temple, and and open it up for viewing at Trafalgar Square in London, major city of the West, one of the major cities of the world as far as trade goes, as far as say worldly dealings go. London is up there with New York and other major cities of the world. They actually took it on tour, as this article talks about. Now, a replica of this demonic religion is being honored around the world and praised by historians as part of our global heritage. Many Christians suspect that this historical society is a cover for financial, business, and political leaders in the world who are Luciferian, Satan worshippers, powerful men and women of influence who indulge in witchcraft and demonic practices to undermine Christian values in the world and aggressively usher in the age of the Antichrist. If you believe in the teachings of the Word of God, you know the coming age of the Antichrist will be a time of great apostasy, hatred against the people of God, when immorality and degradation of all that is pure will be praised and all innocence will be defiled. Well, I'm not a Christian evangelical myself, but sure as hell sounds like the time we're living in, doesn't it? I mean, you could be a freaking agnostic and see that that's taking place right now. It'll be an age where only those who bow to the Antichrist will be in positions of power. Okay, now, again, if you have a problem with the perspective that they're coming from, you know, if you're not an Exian, as the edgy teenagers would say, nevertheless, you have to see this. You have to at least cock an eyebrow at the fact that the leaders of the Western world basically connived to have the archway to this temple rebuilt, and then they took it on tour. So they didn't just rebuild it and open it in London and have it stay in London. They also had this 3D model of the archway of Palmyra, the archway to the Temple of Baal. They also had it rebuilt in New York. And as this article notes, it's being taken on tour. It's on a world tour. They had it this replica of the Arch of Palmyra in London, in New York, and then in Dubai, which is of course in the Middle East, but it's not in the part of the Middle East where groups like ISIS are powerful. It's in the part of the Middle East that is friendly to the West. So, in any case, I think whether I really want to take out, I really want to extract anyone's, what may be anyone's prejudice regarding religion or inclinations regarding what you believe, whether you believe in God and the devil or not. I think it makes sense to look askance at what went on here. Why did this happen? Why were they so zealous about rebuilding this temple that is undeniably that was undeniably historically a place of great evil? But Baal was a god that they practiced. They took part in these practices in order to ensure prosperity in order to ensure fertility. The time of the blood sacrifice was so significant that after the pagans, the Romans celebrated a festival of fertility called Fordicia. I don't know how you pronounce that. On the same dates, and the Romans, of course, borrowed from all the places that they conquered, and they took all the gods in and made them part of their Roman pantheon. The Romans were very multicultural in that sense. So Baal, worshipped by the Mesopotamians, was a major influence in the ancient times. Followers of Baal engaged in bisexual orgies and sacrificed human infants, burning them alive. Though worshipping Baal and other idols is not especially prevalent in Western countries today, their holidays persist, taking different meanings and retaining some of the ancient symbols and meaning. All right. Fertility is symbolized in the westernized version of May Day holiday by the phallic maypole ceremony. All right. So I don't think that taking pagan ceremonies or festivals or events and repurposing them, I don't think that's evil in and of itself. But I think there is something that one should definitely look askance at with regard to why this took place, why they decided that it was a priority to rebuild this again, the archway, the Palmyra archway, the archway of Baal. Why was that a priority? Why did they make it such a prominent thing? Why did they, as the other article cites or talks about, why did they take it on a world tour? If not for some nefarious reason, if not for the fact that perhaps the people who rule us, with or without our consent, don't quite believe the same kind of things that we believe. Maybe don't quite worship the same God that we worship. Just saying. Even though I'm 7 years late, this seems like a pretty significant story and one that ought to be paid attention to. What do y'all think? Leave your comments below.